Hey everybody, I'm Tristan. Welcome to Heroes and Homebrew. Today we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to draw a dungeon while I talk. I'm going to try and draw a dungeon while I talk. I'm going to put a bunch of squares on a piece of paper while I talk because my drawing skills are. But the nice thing about drawing dungeons is that it doesn't take an artist to do it. There are artists who do amazing work, but for your own home purposes, you don't need to be an artist. However, I kind of want to talk about what's going to happen with in-person tabletop gaming with the advent of One DnD or DnD 6th edition, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to muse on that while I'm drawing, and hopefully it'll be interesting, and maybe some of you will have some ideas you want to put in the comments down below. All right, so let's get to it. So let's start with some stairs. So stairs, if you've never seen a hand-drawn dungeon before, which I assume many of you have, the stairs generally end up being in a triangle shape like that, with the triangle pointing down to go down the stairs and then up to go up the stairs. The wider end is up, the smaller end is down. All right. So that is going to be our entrance. So as I was saying, with One DnD, Wizards of the Coast is looking to create their own virtual tabletop. This will include, from the looks of it, from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to include 3D minis and 3D environments, essentially to look like a tabletop if you have your terrain and your miniatures on it. Now, I don't think anyone is really surprised by that, being as how Roll20 has become very popular, especially since the pandemic when almost everyone had to bring their gaming online. And them and Wizards of the Coast buying out D&D Beyond. So all these things are pointing towards Wizards of the Coast creating their own online ecosystem for Dungeons and Dragons. Now, in and of itself, I mean, this is not such a bad thing. I understand that Hasbro is a company. Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, and they are in the business of making money. They're not in the business of making nerds happy. But what does that mean for people who want to play D&D in person? Well, presumably any new supplements will be available in print. I think they've already said that anything that comes out in print will come with a digital download code, which is nice considering how much money people have been pumping into D&D Beyond to get things that they already have in print. And I believe Paizo has already been doing this, giving digital download codes with their print stuff. I'm not sure. I don't play Pathfinder, but that being said, does that mean that is Wizards of the Coast pushing for a more digital environment? Is that where this hobby of ours is going? I think it's definitely Roll20 right now, and Fantasy Grounds, they have licenses to sell Wizards of the Coast product. But if Wizards of the Coast has its own digital or virtual tabletop, why would they keep licensing out to Roll20 when they can just sell direct to the consumer, which is something that they've already said they want to do, which means that they're going to be cutting out anyone who plays on Roll20 essentially. And that, I mean, let's face it, Roll20 is kind of D&D centric. Yes, they have a lot of other games on there, but by and large, it's Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition with some other games thrown in. Like if you look at the forums, it's all, for the most part, Dungeons & Dragons people are playing. Now, does that mean all those people are going to migrate from Roll20 to the new Dungeons & Dragons virtual tabletop? Maybe. All of them. If they've, like for myself, and I've bought a bunch of 5e stuff on Roll20, I'm not going to go to Wizards of the Coast virtual tabletop. And then what happens to all of that digital stuff that I bought on Roll20? They're just going into the ether. So that is a concern of mine. However, I really have no intention of migrating to 6th edition. From what I've seen, I haven't read the Unearthed Arcanas on it, but it just doesn't interest me. I mean, maybe I'll play a game or two just to see what it's like, but by and large, I don't think I have any interest in that. My problem with 5e is already that it just makes superheroes at first level, and it looks like that's just going to be that much more of a problem. Where am I going with this dungeon? All right. So, what's going to happen? So, they're going to have their own virtual tabletop. They're going to say, well, if you want to play Dungeons & Dragons online, this is where you have to do it. I can almost guarantee they are not going to allow Roll20 to continue using their IP. So why allow another company to make money off your properties, right? Which makes sense. Business is business, right? However, at what point does Dungeons & Dragons, or at least the Wizards of the Coast iteration of Dungeons & Dragons, at what point does it cease to be a tabletop game, a tabletop role-playing game, and where does it become a computer game? Already, there's a whole slew of people who have never played Dungeons & Dragons in person. And I'll admit, it was probably by and large through no fault of their own. I mean, even myself, most of what I play for RPGs is online. That's just the nature of it, you know? It's just a lot easier to get a group of people together online than it is in person. Especially post-pandemic, in this new world we're living in. But where is Dungeons & Dragons stop being Dungeons & Dragons? You know? Like, I'm sure there's lots of people who grew up playing whether original D&D or BX or advanced or even AD&D 2nd edition, that they they have a completely different concept of Dungeons and Dragons compared to what it is now. So my forecast, One DnD is going to release. It'll have a lot of people jumping on it because they're going to push for it, even though they say it's backwards compatible to 5e. I mean, we don't even know what that means, really. We'll see. But you'll have your diehard Wizards of the Coast fans who don't know any better, don't want to play anything else, and that's fine. I mean, if you love 5e and that's what you want to play, then I'm not going to tell you not to. And if you want to play D&D 6 or 1D or D&D or whatever it's called, who am I to say you can't? However, my forecast for it is that Wizards of the Coast is going to slowly, over, not right away, but I would say over the next 5 years or so, push the game that was designed to have you and your friends sitting around a table rolling dice and interacting. It's going to be all digital. And I don't think I'm wrong. I might be wrong with the timeline. But overall, that's going to happen. And I'll be like, oh, well, we want to save on paper. It's environmentally friendly. Sure, whatever. But let's call it what it is. You want people to have to pay a monthly subscription fee to play your game online. And that's it. And see this dungeon? See what I mean? It's just a bunch of squares. That's why you don't need to be an artist to draw a dungeon, people. This is going to have some stairs here. And if that happens, if Wizards of the Coast pushes it to be completely online, then Dungeons and Dragons, as we know it, will cease to exist. Which is upsetting because, and I don't think anyone can disagree with me, the feeling of playing a tabletop role-playing game, forget if Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop role-playing game, the feeling of playing that game at a table with your friends is completely different to the feeling of playing it online on a virtual tabletop. And don't get me wrong, it's still fun, but playing on a virtual tabletop, you lose that intimacy. You know what I mean? You lose that connection of when you're looking at the person across the table from you, or when you're interacting with your dungeon master as he tells a story, he leans back in his chair and he's like acting as these NPCs. The feeling of even watching other characters die, like that emotional impact, it's not the same when you're playing online. So my personal opinion, and I mean, I am sure I am very wrong about this, because I am wrong about a lot of things. My personal opinion, though, is that whether or not they think they are, Wizards of the Coast is actively kind of destroying Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, I could be wrong. One DnD might come out, and I might say, you know what? I am going back to this game because this is a lot of fun. However, I personally think they should have just stayed with 5e. But that's not going to make them the money. Although they could have. They could have stayed with 5e, kept that fan base, kept that loyalty, and created their virtual tabletop and migrated everything there. They could have done that. What I think might happen is that we're going to see a lot of people jump ship and stick with playing 5e after the changeover to One DnD or D&D 6th edition, whatever it's called. And what that's going to look like is, much as right now we have in the OSR, we've got people making like their retro clones or their interpretations of, let's say, OD&D or BX or what have you. I think we're going to see that a lot more for 5e. Like, we already see it, third-party 5e stuff. But I think we're going to see more digital stuff for 5e. I think third-party 5e stuff or 5e compatible stuff is going to become a lot more popular. Not that it's not popular now, and it very much is. But I think there's going to be a core group of people who don't go over. I mean, honestly, if it was me, if I were still playing 5e as much, especially as much as I used to, I would probably stick with 5e, even with a new edition. I mean, I've already sunk that much money into it. Why would I go over to something that's essentially kind of the same, but the rules are, let's be honest, slightly worse? They're making the characters far too powerful. It looks like it's becoming super crunchy, which is not something I'm interested in. You know? But we'll see. I'll be curious to see what happens. Anyway, let me know in the comments. You think I'm right? You think I'm wrong? You have your own ideas of what's going to happen? I know for myself, I'm going to continue playing my games the way I want to play them. Play my style. As much as possible, I'm going to play in person. I know it's hard this day and age, but even playing online, I'm leaning towards moving away from the virtual tabletop and just, rolling actual dice and doing a lot of theater of the mind and just, maybe using Albert Bear Rodeo or something just for maps if I need to, like for area maps. But I think I'm trying. I want to try and, as much as possible, if I have to play online, sort of emulate that feeling of being at the table. I don't know how that's going to work, but it'll be something to try anyway. This dungeon's almost finished. I'll post this up on. When I finish this dungeon, I'll post it up on my Patreon. Oh yeah, I started a Patreon. If you feel like helping out a little bit, very cheap. Every little cent helps me get some better equipment to make better videos. And just lets me know that you appreciate what I do, even though I am very thankful for all of you that have been watching and commenting. I've had some great conversations in the comments in the bottom. I really appreciate that. Honestly, when I started this channel, I did not think that it would go as well as it has so far in the first month. So thank you, all of you, for that. I'm just going to finish inking this, and then I will finish it up myself at another time. Also, let me know in the comments, what would you like me to talk about? Is there anything you guys want to talk about? Would you like me to do some live streams? So I can try doing that before a live stream. No one showed up, but that's because also I had like 3 subscribers to my channel. So there's a few more. If I did a live stream, do you want to hang out and just talk games, maybe draw maps together, whatever, let me know. And we're almost done here. I'm just going to ink that 7, and for now that's done. I'm going to fill out the other stuff, but I won't do it now because this video is going a little long. But thanks for watching, guys. I was just giving my 2 cents on the whole One DnD thing. I mean, I'm probably wrong. And again, if you want to go, if One DnD looks interesting to you, by all means, go play it. If you love 5e, by all means, play it. I think the important thing is that we're playing games and we're having fun, and of course that we're playing games with people that we enjoy playing games with. So, you know, be good to your group because they're hard to come by. That's it for me. Save a seat for me at your table.